Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today you'll see that we are absent the whiskey. This is going to be a life episode, and I kind of have to keep an ear out because for the last 4 days, been playing Mr. Mom as my wife went back to work finally. And I know maybe some of you look down on the fact that my wife is working and I'm not at the moment. But you know what? I really think either one of us needs to provide some child care rather than just sending our kid off to some child care service place and spending $25,000 a year to have somebody else raise our child. Not to mention, because we weren't going to do that, we didn't even start looking into any of the child care services here in town, and I think we should have done that about a year ago. It's extremely difficult to find childcare here in town, apparently. So, all that aside, playing Mr. Mom, things are going pretty good there. Kid commandeered this struggle bus a couple of days here and there, but overall we're doing okay. But got to keep an ear out. He's upstairs napping, so if I hear something, have to pause the video. I'll edit it out, but I got to run up there and take care of him. Hopefully he'll be sleeping for at least the duration of this video. What I'm going to do is put this video into the lineup on my YouTube channel, and then I'm going to bump the next two videos that I have up or down one more weekend, just so I have a little bit more content. And there's a reason why I don't have whiskey in front of me. Number one, because I'm taking care of the kid, so don't want to be drinking whiskey while I'm in charge of that. But number two, the entire family, me, my wife, my son, we all got COVID about mid-October. So tomorrow's Halloween. So there you go. You can do the math. Beginning part of October, we had fires raging in all the states around us. A lot of smoke, a lot of stuff. A little bit of allergy symptoms that were coming on strong, mostly nasal stuff, sinus stuff. Picked up a slight cough, like literally like 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 times at the most per day. In like the second week of October, somewhere in there. But what prompted everything was my stepdad had come to visit and he tested positive. And right at that same time, I lost my sense of smell, my sense of taste. So that's the other reason why I don't have any whiskey in front of me, is I previously could not smell or taste anything. I remember trying whiskey one day and it literally tasted like water. It had zero flavor, zero burn. I even tried some Turkey 101. No burn, no flavor, no nothing. It was the most crazy thing. And I couldn't smell anything. And those senses are coming back, I'd say about 50 to 70%, depending on what I'm smelling and tasting. But not back fully yet. Anyways, got tested. I tested positive. My quarantine was over on the 19th. And from the time my symptoms started, the 10-day waiting period and all that jazz, I only had to quarantine for, 3 days, something like that, over the course of a weekend, which did suck because I was hoping to get out and do some elk hunting. So on the day my quarantine ended, I went out, did some elk hunting. Sorry, listening because I thought I heard the kid. Went out elk hunting the day my quarantine ended, hiked 5 miles, did about 5 to 7,000 vertical feet, up, down, up, down, up, down. Went back to the same place I elk hunted for the last 2 days of archery season. We'd gotten a bunch of snow. In fact, while I was out hunting, it was snowing. Snow was about 10 to 12 inches deep, which, makes travel pretty difficult when you're going out. Really limited where I could have even driven to because most of the roads were snowed in already. It was kind of the last hurrah for elk. I haven't seen them down out of the mountains yet, but I'm guessing they're down because I've driven around to a couple of places and several vehicles are parked at places that I would imagine elk kind of filtering down out of the mountains too. And so that is kind of my last resort plan, is hopefully being able to find one. The tag that I hold, the season's up on November 5th, so I only got this weekend really to hopefully fill that tag on the zones that are open for that. There are still other zones that are open to December 31st, I think. Kind of a 1 in a million chance for that to all work out, because like 99% private land. Gotta find the herd on public land, and then be able to make a play on them on top of that. Not putting much stock in that, so for the most part, my elk season's pretty much over. And then from the time that I did go elk hunting, my last hunt, we've gotten down here foot and a half of snow maybe. In total, we had 3 storms dump a good amount of snow. And so that pretty much means that up in the mountains there was a couple of feet of snow that had fallen. But with all of that, today it's supposed to be 68. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets upwards, up over that 70 mark. And throughout the weekend, it's supposed to be 40s and 50s, and then Monday back to 68. So, snow and cold, and then, summer pretty much. To finish up that elk hunt, so I did my same kind of routine. My last day hunting, archery hunting, even though that was almost a month prior to, it was 20 days between the last time I'd gone hunting and the first day off of quarantine. I thought, okay, I bumped some cows over here. Hopefully the snow hadn't pushed them out yet, or other hunters for that matter. Kind of went back, did my same route. Didn't find anything. I thought, okay, maybe with the snow I'd cut some fresh tracks. Found some deer tracks, never bumped a deer though. Finally cut one set of tracks, which I'm not even guaranteeing that they were elk tracks. They might have been moose, but I'm pretty sure they were elk. A lone set, so I figured they were probably a set of bull tracks. Posted up on a park to sit there for a little bit, eat, kind of cool down. Saw a hunter kick through about 60 yards. Not sure he even saw me, but it looked like he kind of had a weighted pack. So maybe he got an elk, maybe not. But he and I were the only 2 people hunting this chunk of land. Really, we were the only 2 vehicles parked in the area. Went back to that set of tracks, had a coyote come in on me, never got a shot at him. Followed those tracks about 200 yards after I followed those tracks, picked up the other hunter's set of tracks right on top of them. So either that guy shot that elk or blew it out or passed up on it or whatever. So I kind of gave up on those tracks, circled around, went to another area where I had previously found some elk. Found some tracks that were, from the day before it started snowing again, but just never came up with anything fresh. Kind of waited, and just plowing through the snow and whatever, just kind of exhausted myself and never really had anything to show for it. So that was the end of that elk hunt, and kind of the end of my season. I'm going to keep an eye out in places where I can still hunt, but I'm not going to be able to take off for 2 or 3 days, which is probably what it would take to go to a new area somewhere else in the state and try and find some elk. That's just not going to happen. So my last resort was I still had a deer tag. Several zones around here where I could try and fill that. So went out. A snowstorm was supposed to stop. Or, they were calling for it to stop. It stopped here in town, drove about 10 miles south of town, a little bit higher elevation, about 1,000 feet higher in elevation, right along a creek. Sat there for about 2 hours to the time about when the snowstorm was supposed, they were calling for it to blow through. No, it didn't stop, just kept right on it coming. Winds picked up, kind of came down in bands. So said, screw it, got out. Just decided to hike through the snow. Again, followed this creek bottom. Never cut a set of tracks until the very far north end of this property. So over a mile from where I started my journey, I was zigzagging back and forth, thinking maybe I bumped something or see something. Never came up with anything. Saw rooster pheasant, grouse, heard some turkeys. But it wasn't until like an hour before dark I saw one doe whitetail on the opposite side of the creek from me. She was like 40 yards away from me, and she instantly like picked me up. I saw her kind of running and coming through, so I hunkered down and posted up and sat there. And with the wind she was on the other side of the creek, and the wind was coming down the creek, and somehow there must have been an eddy in that wind current because she smelled me like that and was just looking in my direction. And I don't know what the heck happened, but she bolted without giving me a shot. And then as I was coming out of the creek bottom that night going towards my truck, one busted about 10 yards from where I'd come into that creek bottom. And looking at the tracks, I saw that either I had bumped it or another hunter had bumped that animal. It had circled in and then bedded down right there 30 yards from the truck. So wasn't really expecting there to be a deer there, and then it got up and then skylined itself on the creek embankment. I just wasn't going to take a skyline shot, especially with the road and my truck being directly behind it. So passed on that. So decided the next day I would go in and hunt because the snowstorm was supposed to be over by then. So got up. It was like 3 degrees. Wind chill was like 15 below, something like that. Got on my old hip boots from when I was in high school, actually. Threw those on. Found out they didn't have any holes in them, so that was good. The old guide series from Gander Mountain back in Wisconsin. Threw those on, waded across the creek, thinking, hey, I'm the only idiot that's going to be going across the creek in sub-zero wind chills. Found out that wasn't true. 2 other guys had come across the creek that same morning. We were the only people really hunt the property, though, and they had kind of pushed around, and the sun came out, wind died down, temperatures got up to about 15, 20 degrees. I was posted up on a ridge about 300 feet above the creek bottom, so I could just kind of sit there and glass and watch and see what happened. Had bumped a couple of deer earlier in the morning, seen some coyotes and other stuff, and I thought, okay, with the wind dying down and the sun coming out, that I'd probably see. Sorry, my phone was buzzing in my pocket. Figured the animals would probably start moving, and they did about, 9:45, 10 o'clock. Saw some deer moving in the bottom. Positioned myself to make a play on them. Got lucky. They started out about 350 yards, which the whitetail out here are extremely small, at least in this particular area I was hunting. Like, I shot an adult doe, to skip ahead in the story, probably weighed 110 pounds. Like, a big deer would probably be about 150, 160 pounds for a mature buck in this area. But they started out at like 350 yards. I've never shot an animal with the gun I was shooting at that time. I was shooting my 30-06. I've owned it for 8 years. It took me 7 years to figure out why I couldn't get it to shoot and then develop a load for it once I solved that problem. And now I'm shooting, half-inch, quarter-inch groups at 100 yards with it, so I was really happy with that. Shooting those Nosler partitions, which I'm now going to shift to the Nosler E-tips, as I talked about. I probably haven't talked about that in a video. One of the videos coming up, we'll talk about that. So shooting some lead bullets, 180 grain, which was a little overkill for these deer, but all that aside, I wanted to make sure I had a good size target, because I was actually shooting at something. Once I got the animal, I realized it was actually smaller than what an antelope would be, and so luckily they fed their way in towards me to about 123 yards. Now, I was at a really steep downhill angle, and I just couldn't. I was using my pack as a rifle rest, and I was aiming down, and I just never got super steady. And when I shot that, I shot one round and I completely flinched and screwed it all up like an idiot. Never touched the deer. She ran, luckily, only about 60 yards. Didn't really know what had just happened. Turned broadside. I was able to collect myself, get a little bit steadier rest, and then take another shot. And I finally got her. I caught her a little further back than I wanted to. Like I hit just behind the diaphragm. So, the diaphragm kind of separates the lungs and heart from the guts. And I kind of caught her through the guts. Luckily, it was a lethal shot. She only ran about 20 yards and died. So I felt good about that, but it was not the best shot placement. On the plus side, I didn't blow up any of the meat, which is good because I only got about 35 pounds of meat. That's taking the neck, the flanks. I did not take the ribs or the rib meat, but I took all the major chunks of meat off of that stuff, and I still only ended up with about 35 pounds. So it was good that I didn't blow any of that meat up. Yeah, quartered it out, threw it all in a game bag, packed it out in one go, and that's been my hunt so far. Now, I did find out that I can, and I'm sorry if my energy is dwindling a little bit just because my focus is on the kid upstairs. I kind of focusing on keeping an ear open for him. But I did find out that I can get some more doe tags. So my wife and I will probably buy some more. We'll probably each buy one doe tag, white-tailed doe tag to start with. It would be nice if we could get some mule deer just because that would be a lot more meat in the pot. But you know what? That's just not how things are going right now. So we can get some whitetail tags, which will be just fine. And last I looked, there was a couple hundred tags left, and I can get as many as I want. So, and as a resident, they cost me like $22. As non-residents, they'd only cost you $34 for those leftover tags. So, not exactly expensive. But those we'll get those tags, and if we could put 2 more deer in the freezer, I'd feel a little bit better. It'd still be nice to get an elk, but like I said, my opportunities for that are extremely limited, and I just don't foresee that happening. But who knows? Stupider things have happened, just not to me. So I don't foresee that working out for me. But anyways, that's kind of the hunting situation right now going into November. Did some bird hunting the other day with my dog, got her out. We got our limited grouse. That was pretty nice. Put up several coveys of huns, so it appears that the huns did really good this spring and summer. Plenty of birds out there. And we're just now about to start our pheasant season here in Wyoming, so that's also pretty awesome. So we'll be able to get some pheasants here pretty quick. Yeah, anyways, back to the COVID thing. Lost my sense of taste and smell, but, getting that back. I'm only a week and a half out from quarantine. Like I said, 50 to 70%. Hopefully by the time my last video drops in 2 or 3 weeks, everything will be back to normal. My wife, her COVID incidents, she had like a cough for 2 days and a little bit of sinus congestion, and that was it. So it didn't really affect her any. My son, he's coming on 4 months old now. He had a cough for less than a week. Was not, again, like me, a couple times a day, and that was about it. Maybe 3 days, I would say he probably had that cough. Yeah, everybody's doing fine. So hopefully there's no residual effects that will last for the rest of our lives. But pretty much all in all was a non-issue. We didn't really think we even had anything. It wasn't until my stepdad tested that we even really thought, hey, go get tested. Thought it was allergies to start with just because of all the smoke around us. So there you go. That's our 2 cents on it. If you have to get COVID, I guess that's whatever strain we got happened to be the lucky one. It's the one that's going around town, and gosh, our town is just blown up. So we went 2 months without any COVID anything, and then people started moving in from California and New York and all over the place, and every tourist in the frickin' country decided to show up to Wyoming. So there was plenty of Washington, Oregon, all the hot spots decided to show up. And because we were footloose and fancy free, and everything was open, they brought stuff in and, it got into the city population. So now a large portion of the city has it, but most people are over it in less than a week with very ill or very small effect. Like almost nobody's having major troubles with it, which is good. And I'm sure I got plenty of friends out there that are going, "See, I told you." Blah blah. We wore masks when we went out. Places like Walmart or something like that. Washed our hands religiously. Really, our lives in general, we are not out in the public most of the time. So, no idea where we got it from. And it's really hard to tell. I mean, hell, it could have been from a gas pump handle or something stupid like that, even though used that antibacterial stuff every single time and whatnot. So who knows where we got it from. Luckily, it didn't really affect us any. And the only major effect was that we had to cancel our big antelope hunt that we were planning. It was going to be me, my dad, my brother. First time three of us had been able to hunt together in like probably close to 20 years, 15 to 20 years. And unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. Several people are kind of in the high risk category, and we didn't want to risk exposing them. I was hoping my dad, my brother, and my buddy would still go, but just the travel. My dad was coming from Wisconsin, kind of the hotbed right now in the United States, actually, for cases of COVID. So unnecessary travel didn't really make any sense. So it was definitely the best call, but unfortunate. Now I just heard my son cry a little bit, so I'm going to wrap this up and then take off so I don't have to do too much editing. But luckily, my buddy, he still ended up going, was able to take his dad with him and get a hunt in together. That was awesome. He got a small antelope buck, which was great. And so it's unfortunate we didn't get to do that. Hopefully next year we'll be able to pull that together. But that's just the way things go. So, anyways, hope everybody out there staying safe. That's kind of just where I'm at right now. We're all doing good. We're all out of quarantine, healthy, back to normal. Life's great. And so stay tuned. I'll still keep dropping a couple of whiskey videos here. I got 2 more in the wing, in the queue. And then I hopefully will have my senses back by then. We can get back into the videos. Until next time, please like, subscribe, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how your hunting season's going, if you've been able to get out at all. What kind of new favorite whiskeys you're looking at, or any whiskeys you want me to do some reviews of. Please drop those in the comments down below. I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll catch you in the next